Okay, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday and welcome to our Transitioning into UX Design panel event with our very own alums who've gone through our flagship UX Academy program and subsequently transitioned to very fulfilling careers in UX and UI design. It's great to have all of them on the call today. My name is Bobby. I'm a member of the admissions team here at Design Lab, and I'm super excited to be the host, or let's say co-host with our awesome alums today. So once again, welcome everyone. So before we get started, I actually have a quick icebreaker that I'd like for as many of you to participate as possible. If you don't mind, please share your name in the chat as well as one word that you would use to sort of describe what piqued your interest in the field of UX and UI design. So I'll read a couple of them off as more people join us today. So thank you all for joining. And let's see. Okay, hi, Ali. Would you mind sharing a word that piqued your interest in design? So you can share your name if you're able to, as well as a word to describe what piqued your interest in the field. Okay, let's see. Okay, I see a lot of people typing away. Let's see who's okay. I see Randon. Okay, creation, very nice. I see Ali who has a background in graphic design. I'm sure. Okay, let's see. Okay, Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin. I see creativity and problem solving from Kara. Very nice. That's a good one. Nate, who has a project management background. Cool. Righty, let's see. Okay, I see lots of people typing. So we'll spend around 1 to 2 minutes or so on the icebreaker. I like that, Luis. People, that's such a good one. Yes, very people-centered field. I see Sammy, graphic design background. Rutger, the process, very nice. I see Claire, marrying different interests, very true. Susie, social media and marketing. Talia, empathy, that's a very good one. See, already thinking like a UX designer, Talia, very nice. Let's see, Krista, always been artistic, but I've been doing surface pattern design for 1 year. Very nice. Okay, so I'm sure more and more people will enter their name as well as their word. So without further ado, we'll jump in just to ensure that you all get the most out of today's session. I see Zoe, accessibility, that's a great one. Okay, thank you all for participating in our icebreaker. So here's our agenda that outlines how the session is going to be run today. So next up, we'll have our alums introduce themselves and share the current title, as well as one word that describes their overall feeling of being a UX designer. And then afterwards, we'll have a panel discussion where I'll pose a few questions to our alums, and they'll answer those questions just so you can learn about their individual experiences in relation to that question. And then we will have a live Q&A session at the very end. So I'll leave a few minutes or so at the end for your questions to be answered by our alums. So if you have any questions at all that are burning that you'd really like to ask, please enter them in the questions tab, which you'll find on the lower right-hand side of your screen. Okay, so without further ado, I'm so very excited to present to you our alums. Again, they've all gone through the UX Academy program, and they are all now working in the industry as designers. So we have Shannon and Steven and Mina and Adugo and Alona. So they'll introduce themselves in that order. So without further ado, we'd love to hear from you, Shannon.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby.
Of course.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shannon. I am based in New York City. Graduated from Design Lab in 23, and I'm currently a product designer at American Express.
Very nice. Thanks, Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Steven Grady. I graduated from Design Lab in 23 and currently am a UX designer at HCA Healthcare. Happy to be here.
Very nice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mina. I graduated from Design Lab in also 23, I think. It's been a while. I think it was March 2023 or April. And I am currently a product designer at a company called Fearless.
Very nice.
Hi, my name is Adugo Iwala. I'm based in Washington, D.C. I graduated Design Lab June of 2024. And I am now an apprentice product designer at Pinterest.
Very nice.
And I'm Ilona. I graduated about a year and a half ago, so also 2023, and I'm currently a product designer at Cisco Meraki.
Very nice. Thanks, Alona. And just to kick off the panel discussion, would each of you mind just sharing one word that describes how you feel about working as a UX designer now? We can go in any order, whichever one works for you is fine.
I'll go, and I'm going to cheat. It's hyphenated, so work in progress. So
Oh, that's a good one.
always learning, always discovering new challenges, and there's a lot of different routes you can go with this career. So work in progress.
Like, that's a good one. Thanks, Stephen.
I'm actually going to echo one of the words that now I can't find who it was again, but problem solving. Problem solving is my word. I know
It's a
somebody
good
brought that up.
one.
I would say mine is curiosity. Like I'm always thinking and asking a lot of questions throughout a lot of projects.
Very nice. Thanks, Shannon.
I think for me, it would probably be user-centric. I think a lot of
User-centric.
my job revolves around the customer.
Yes.
For me, I think I'd say growth. I'm pretty new in my role, but I am working in design systems, which is a little different than traditional design work. So I feel like I'm growing a lot and learning a lot about design system work, and it's very interesting and very exciting.
Very nice. Thank you all for sharing those wonderful words, including the hyphenated ones. I love those too. So yes, without further ado, I want to, begin our discussion. The very first question that I want to pose to all of you is, what sort of motivated you to make the career pivot into UX design? And if you don't mind sharing, what were you doing prior as well? So we can go in any order. We'll spend around 4 minutes or so on the initial question.
I can go first. My background was actually, so like undergrad, I did engineering and philosophy. Then for work, I spent 7 years as a management consultant and got an MBA. The one thread that kind of carried me through my career was wanting, as I said, like problem solving for me in UX is big. So like wanting to solve problems, but specifically wanting to do it in a way that is like really taking into account how people actually behave, not just like theoretically how we wish people behave. And so that's what got me into UX design is, I had been kind of solving problems from like a business perspective or previously from like an engineering perspective. And I really wanted to hone in on that kind of human-centered, user-centric type of problem solving.
I'll go next. I've been technically a designer, I guess a coder since MySpace, shout out. But designing band T-shirts and flyers at a younger age. My previous career was in IT, so I was in IT support and project management and implementation. So I had a lot of line of sight to a lot of just uptick in tickets of users complaining. And so about particular websites and mobile apps. And so I had a lot of line of sight to bad UX and bad UI. And that just opened my eyes to just the world of how there are so many UX designers, so many engineers out there, but you still find poor UX everywhere. You see it everywhere. And so, that was my kind of introduction into how can I help and make an impact in that world.
Yes, thanks, Stephen.
I can go next. So similar to Stephen, then I was a designer in my past, graphic designer / multimedia designer specifically. I also saw that there are some graphic designers in the audience, so that's super cool. But I think for me, it was probably just in my head, I was like, oh, this would be a good transition over because I wanted to be more of a part of a field that had, this is funny because it aligns with the word that I chose, which was user-centric. Like I want to be a part of a field that really thinks about the customer and prioritizes their needs first and foremost. So I think that would be like the main reason why I switched over.
Nice.
I'll share really quickly. So I actually came from a totally different career. I was in medicine, so I was a physician assistant for a few years. And, while I was practicing medicine, I found that it's obviously a very difficult and very, stressful job. But what I found was that I was kind of pouring a lot into my career and wasn't receiving much from it. So once I was finally able to be honest with myself about that, I started to look for other careers. And I remembered that what drew me into medicine was that empathetic aspect of being able to help somebody's life improve in some way. And so whenever I was looking into new careers, I knew that I wanted that to be a heavy part of my next career. And when I discovered UX design, I loved that it was still problem solving, similar to medicine. It was still kind of centering the person, the user, right, in this case. And I found that I could also use some of my creative side, which I've always been a creative, but never knew I could kind of tie that into my career. So it kind of felt like a perfect fit.
Nice.
Yeah, I came from a exhibit design background in museums, and like since I was like a kid, I always knew I wanted to do something creative or design, but I feel like my career was always like a trial and error of figuring out exactly what kind of design I wanted to do. Exhibit design was a lot of fun for a while. I did that for about 5 to 6 years because that entailed both like graphic design as well as like thinking about the way you print out, but also like show, three-dimensional objects in like a space and how you tell that story and how people kind of move about that space. So I accidentally like fell into like while researching a lot of exhibits, just experience design in general, and then like going into UX design. And that really interested me because there's very ambiguous career growth in the exhibit design, like museum world. There's only so many museums and only, so many things you could like specialize in essentially. And I'm the type of person who's like always like thinking about like different industries or like different things that I can explore. I just always like to try different things essentially. And I just found like a really cool connection with like technology, especially around the time of COVID, is when I was thinking making that change, because we had to like convert all of our physical exhibits into like a digital experience. So that was huge for me and like kind of figuring that out. So that's what definitely led me in the UX design path, was just thinking of new ways that I can just design and pivot into something more interesting.
Very nice. I think everyone has answered that question, right? Or am I missing someone? Oh, everyone answered. Wow, that was really fast. Based upon what I guess on aggregate, it appears that like some of you had some like maybe a design experience, and I know many of our prospective students, they just want to know, okay, if I'm going to make this career pivot, do I need an art background? And most importantly, would you say that there are any skills that you acquired in your previous role that you were able to like, sort of transition into the field with that possibly made it easier for you, or were you surprised to see if any of those skills were able to carry over?
I can go first. So I would say yes, but I think that the situation is maybe really specific. So I ended up learning a lot about like website design, all of that in my previous role. And it was nice to be able to see that carried over because within UX Academy, you learn about responsive website design as one of the curriculum. And to be able to have that prior knowledge made the course easier in a sense. And then coming to your, what are they called? The projects at the end, your capstones, then there is one where you specifically have to do a responsive website design. So it was nice to be able to carry that over into the academy and now into real life. So I would say not necessarily that you need a graphic design background or a design background at all. You do learn those things if you end up doing the fundamentals course. But I would say that it does help a little bit, give you like a jump start into it. But it's not required by any means. Anybody can do this.
Yeah, I'd give the counter view of that just because I come from zero design background, zero art background. And I remember part of the reason I didn't like UX design hadn't gotten onto my radar earlier is because the only person I knew who was doing it was like my high school friend who was like an amazing artist. And I thought I had to be an artist to do it. Then I learned, so much of it is really about being able to like break down the problem, understand what the user needs, work with a lot of different stakeholders because you're working with the product manager, you're working with your engineers, you're working with other people on the UX team. And on top of that, especially if you're at a bigger company like I am, I'm not the one designing the design system. I don't need to worry about like what's the perfect drop shadow for something. I just need to be able to think about how do I construct this experience in a way that is going to make it as intuitive and streamlined as possible for the user. So to me, that helped me realize like I don't need to be an artist or like a graphic design background. I will say the one thing that I think is important is like caring enough, you know, about the visual details, having an eye for it so that you can evaluate, you know, does it look terrible? But in my role, I'm not the one, you know, making all of those little nitty gritty like UI design choices. And I think there's a lot of roles like that out there too.
I'll go next. Kind of on both these points, there's the topic of hard skills and soft skills, and you're going to learn a lot of hard skills in if you choose UX Academy, which I highly recommend. I also did you have to remind me, what is the course you take before UX Academy? But it gives you introduction into, yes, so foundation. So I chose to do that. I'm very, very thankful because it gave me insight into color theory, font, and really introduction to design, which is important. It was important for me. So yeah, you do learn a lot of hard skills, but I'm very thankful for that I was a project manager in a previous life, in a previous career. And soft skills are so important. So you touched on that beforehand, which is you're potentially going to be interacting with a lot of different personalities and a lot of potentially different egos. And some people are okay with pushback, some people are not. And so that's like sometimes a surprising challenge. Some people are very much into that challenge of like a verbal sparring match, but some people are really cool. A lot of people typically are like, you're a UX designer, we believe in you and we'll trust you. But yeah, a lot of times, so I work at a giant healthcare company. It's not me making the major decisions, but I am influencing and impacting a little way. So I will add one thing, which is specifically from UX Academy workshops. Being able to share and communicate your designs and also receive and give critiques is invaluable. And that's something we did weekly in UX Academy. And guess what I do weekly at my job now? I have to communicate, or it's my responsibility to communicate my designs and also receive critiques, which is not always easy. Sometimes you work on a design for a very long time, and for someone to kind of take it apart can be kind of difficult. So very, very thankful that we did that in UX Academy.
Yes, thanks, Stephen.
I can speak to this quickly. So your first part about, do you need an art background? I don't have an art background. I think it's helpful if you do have that, but I also don't have that. And I was able to do this program and learn a lot of the skills that I needed for this job on the job. So, or in the boot camp, and then also on the job as well. So highly encourage you not to be afraid to at least try. I agree with Stephen. I really, really benefited from taking the foundations course to really learn about how to do things in Figma, about UI in general, and how to start to notice the patterns that make good UI. And so that was really helpful for me. I came from a medical background, so my background is very research heavy, very science heavy, very analytical. And that's helpful in UX because all your design decisions need to be rooted in research and need to have a foundational reason as to why you're making your decisions, especially when you are trying to get buy-in from stakeholders or explain your reasoning to your team. You want to have a good research and foundation for why you made your decisions. So I found that to be really helpful. And also, again, being in medicine helps you really focus on the user, on the patient, and then in UX, it also is focusing on the user. So I learned a lot about how to interview people, how to take their, information and come up with a solution, how to change the solution over time if I see, how they progress. All of those skills were super beneficial in my career now in UX. So I definitely picked up a lot of skills from my last career that is translating over.
So amazing. Those responses were like, I swear, all of you should receive a Golden Globe or whatever award they give for those great responses that you just gave. Another question, considering that like most of you like naturally started talking about the UX Academy program, and of course, starting with foundations, what was that experience like? Just pretty much like coming from a completely different industry, starting foundations, moving on to UX Academy. So could you talk a little bit about your foundations and UX Academy experience, what it was like working with a mentor, what was most challenging to you? Can you share some details about that?
I'll go ahead and share one. And I'm curious if everyone had a similar experience. One of the things that attracted me to Design Lab is you get connected with a mentor. I have many different types of mentors in my life. I have design mentors, professional, financial, just different mentors in my life. So it was very important for me to find one that I align with, and something whenever I look for one, 2 years ago, you could specify the type of mentor, and I got exactly what I wanted, which is very critical, very direct, could be harsh, and was infinitely helpful in my journey in UX. So that's one of the things that was a part of my journey in UX Academy.
Yeah, Stefan, I agree. I was like when we fill out, I think there was like that form in the beginning where it asks like, your preferred like mentor style and like how you, like I guess to evaluate your personalities or like how you want like your mentorship to kind of like look like. And I definitely was like, I want someone to like really critique me. Like I want to I was like, I want someone to make me cry, but like not actually, but like I really wanted to like be pushed to the max and like because I had this like just I guess being in a design background, like your work is always gonna get critiqued, but like it's actually a good thing because one, like as a designer, you shouldn't have like so much like bias for what you're like working on. So it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm taking this personally. It's just like, oh, what do the users want? So like the critique is definitely good. My like I thought something that was nice and like challenging, but also like a really great part of the academy was the capstone projects and like the freedom to be able to seek out like volunteer work as well. Like two of my capstones, I connected with like my current my job at the time, and sought out like some volunteer work for my second capstone. So that I feel like that was really good experience to have right off the bat for my first UX design projects. Because I definitely learned a lot from those like before going into the workforce. So it's like really good to be able to do that.
I think Shannon.
The thing I'll add, I mean, people have already talked about mentors, so I'm not going to add to that part. But one of the things about the Design Lab experience that I wasn't expecting and was pleasantly surprised by was I hadn't realized how helpful it would be to have access to like the Discord community of other Design Lab students. Because I had been thinking like, well, should I teach myself? Should I go through a program? And one of the things that the Design Lab community was most helpful for is like, I at least took advantage of it for like trading favors on research. So like when I was working on my capstone projects, I would post and get a bunch of Design Lab students that, that were relevant to my topic. And I didn't have to like provide an incentive because the incentive was, hey, like I'll try to help you with your future research if you have something too. So that was something that I just hadn't anticipated how helpful that piece of the experience would be.
Thanks, Alana.
Yeah, just to echo that real quick, I also really appreciated the community that was on Discord. I'm an avid user of Discord outside of that. And so when I saw that the community lived on Discord, I was like, wow, this is so great because I already use this product already. And also, I really appreciated the cohort organization. You're placed into a cohort when you end up being a part of the academy. And so you're in a specific channel with all of your cohort members and you're all going through this at the same time. So it's nice to have that support that you can lean on these other people, and even like people outside of your cohort. Like everybody's very like welcoming and open to like helping each other. So I think that sense of community within Design Lab was like something that I really appreciated and found really rewarding.
Yes, very nice. I think, Shannon, I know that you, in one of our recent webinars, you spoke about the power of the group crits, and of course, a couple of you can chime in as well. Could you talk a little bit more about how those sessions helped you in your career ultimately?
Yes. So the group crits, I think, are really, really great at building the skill of like not only being able to like give feedback in like a very constructive way, but also receive feedback as well. And something I just mentioned in the chat was that group critiques are run exactly like how my design critiques at my job are. So they're once a week. We have like a facilitator that runs it. It could be a different person every week just to build that facilitation skill. And, you know, we all come, or maybe we don't have a design to show, that's fine. We could always just like, you know, critique others' work. And, you know, everyone just, you know, presents their work. We're asked to, you know, provide the specific feedback that you're looking for, because, you know, it's not always helpful if you're just like, hey, look at my design. What do you think? Like you want like a specific, you know, let everyone know, like if you want like specific feedback on things, because everyone will have like different ideas. And then you also want to like keep in mind that you learn this in group critique as well, as if you take everybody's feedback, then like it can not end up looking great or something like that. You want to like be very strategic on like how you implement that feedback if you decide to at all. So I think it's really, really important. And I think like, in my personal opinion, like the best thing about Design Lab, because it's just very real. It's very on the job. Like it's exactly how you would be working as a designer.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, Shannon touched on this, but this is a big skill that I learned really after. Well, I learned it during UX Academy, but I really kind of solidified it after, which is, yeah, prefacing what kind of feedback you want, because I learned very quickly, hey, that looks good isn't very helpful feedback. Looks great. No, you really want to, you want to the skill of prefacing what exactly, maybe some gaps in your design or your thought process is very, very invaluable, because it helps your audience to go, okay, I'm going to listen and look at the design, but then I'm going to keep in mind what Stephen told me ahead of time. So yeah, that's really, really invaluable.
Yes, right. Thank you, Stephen. And yes, based upon what we've just heard regarding the group crit sessions and preparing for your career, I believe Shannon said that the program is sort of like being on the job. So I'd like all of our alums to just talk about what was the job searching process like after you've worked so hard building the portfolio and working with your career. Could you talk a little bit more about the job searching process? I think.
I can go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so job search process.
Yes, I think there was a bit of a lag, but yes, just to ask, what was the overall like job searching process like, working with your career coach and interviews, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I started job searching as soon as I had one project in my portfolio.
Oh, wow.
Literally just like as soon as I could physically apply to jobs, I started looking. That didn't mean I applied to everything. And so I was fortunate. I did get a so what kind of landed my job was a combination of, I got a referral from somebody I had worked with previously, but like not not design related. Like this was some guy who was like in the strategy office. Like he was not connected, but he was still, you know, he knew I did good work just in general. So he was able to give me a referral. And also I kind of took a moment of humility, I think, of, you know, I had been pretty senior in my role previously. I was a manager. I applied for an internship because I was like, I just want to get my foot in the door. Like, you know, the job market was not great 2 years ago. I know it's not amazing right now. So like anything you can do to just get your foot in the door. And I figured if I get an internship, I'm going to show them what I'm able to do and, you know, get hired. And that's how it worked out. So I applied for a summer internship. Yeah. And after that, I got hired at like a level, you know, non-junior level, like a regular, like mid-level designer. So I think that's also just like being flexible in what you're willing to put yourself out there for. And then of course, if you can get a referral from anybody, like whether or not they're UX design related, that's super helpful.
So another quick question for you, Alona. How long was your job searching process from start to finish, would you say?
I think I applied. This is going to. So again, I was applying very selectively because I started applying after my first capstone. And so then I was applying through phase 2, essentially, which was like 2 to 3 months. I was in the full-time track. Essentially, by the time I started career services, I had gotten my first interview and I was like already in the interview process.
That's
So I
such
think
a
it
great
was
point.
about 3 months, but like starting early, being really selective, like not, you know, I only applied to places that I either really cared about, like it was like dream job, or that I felt like I, you know, would still be interested in, but like I felt I had a way in. Rather than just like if it neither interested me nor, you know, nor did I have any connections, like, you know, skip it, save your time.
Yes, I love that. Thanks for that, Alona.
I can go next. So I also started job hunting a little bit early. Like, but I think I started job hunting when I was done with my second or like third capstone project. But I didn't really have much of a portfolio, so it wasn't super great. But I also was really fortunate in the sense that my job hunting process did not take much time in comparison to a lot of other people. So I finished up Design Lab in June, and that was the same time that the Pinterest apprenticeship application opened. And so I applied for that job, and I was also applying to other companies as well. But my focus was mostly on Pinterest because I knew I wanted to work there and I knew I wanted the apprenticeship in particular. And then I went through the interview process over the summer, and then I got my offer early September, and then I started the job end of September. So it was all in all like 3-ish months, which is, I know, not typical. And I know that a lot of people are struggling to find their first role. So I feel very grateful and very blessed, but that's just an encouragement to people. Like, you know, it could be really fast depending on, you know, how things line up and, you know, how opportunities may fall in your lap. And I also wanted to make a quick plug for apprenticeships and early career jobs, because I specifically knew that I didn't have a design background. I didn't have an art degree. I didn't have, you know, a ton of experience doing anything digitally. So I really was hoping to get a job where I would be able to be kind of taught and kind of nurtured as I'm growing in my skill set. And that's kind of what apprenticeships are for. They are specifically created for people who are transitioning into the career, came from a non-traditional background, and they will train you on the job. So I'm learning so much right now. I mean, I learned a ton in Design Lab, but I'm learning even more right now as an apprentice, and there's no pressure for me to perform at any particular level right now. So I feel like it's a great learning opportunity for me, and I feel like I have the room to make mistakes without fearing that I'm, you know, potentially going to get sacked. So that's my little plug. But
Okay. Thanks, Rodrigo.
I'm going to continue this rhythm of I might have applied too early or recommended too early. But in my case, it was, yes, I had one case study in my portfolio. So I had a live portfolio website and one case study and two other case studies, but it was just a thumbnail that you couldn't access. So it looked like I had three. But yeah, as you continue in UX Academy, you do build those case studies and, you know, you are recommended to have maybe two or three so you can showcase multiple projects. But I just had one end-to-end product design project. And I will really hit, I guess, 2 points, which is I was very lucky that I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a lot of UX local meetups. So I went to a UX local meetup and I said the words, I need more experience and I want to be a UX designer. I need a UX designer role. And I was just so happening to be talking to the director of UX Center of Excellence at HCA. And he said, yeah, we're hiring, apply. So I applied that evening and then I got a call for an interview very, very soon after that. So you never know. To echo other people's voices, like it is very difficult. It can be very difficult. Interviewing is very subjective and very different. But this particular one, yeah, it took about 3 months, I think. And then I did have to present my case study in front of seniors and directors and managers, which is very scary and nerve-wracking, but very worth it. And you learn a lot doing it. And so and you get to show your work to other creatives. So it's very initially scary, but later it's just, you're all on the same team. And it's very cool to see managers and directors say like, oh, cool, good job. That kind of makes it worth it.
It is very nice. And as a quick speed round, it's everyone can see who's listening on. Everyone has a very unique experience as to how they approach the portfolio building process, what the job searching process looked like, the resources that were afforded to them. But a specific question that I have for all of you is, could you just share a quick tidbit of which resources helped you the most in that job searching process that Design Lab provided to you?
LinkedIn is great. Shout out to LinkedIn.
I think in terms of what Design Lab provided, like just the structure of, forcing us to start our portfolios early. And also of obviously like huge part was working with my mentor on crafting my case studies. So like that was a massive help and a ton of work that really paid off.
Yes, thanks.
Agreed. I was also going to mention I had a really fantastic mentor for career services. And so she really was super great about getting me prepped and ready for the interview process. I also, my mentor from career services told me about ADP List, which is, that the group of that's basically created for mentors for people who are looking to get into the field, to network. They have tons of events all over the States. I'm not sure abroad, but definitely in the States. And so I was able to go to some networking events, practice getting out of my comfort zone and talking to strangers about why I should work with them. And that was also really helpful. So I also have been telling people, like, consider going to an ADP List event or connecting with someone as a mentor on there if you want like further mentorship after the program's over.
That's awesome. Thanks, Anubo.
I think for me, there's two things that like really stood out. One was the Interaction Design Foundation, because they have different chapters in different locations, and I like made really great friends with my local chapter. So like another shout out to just like in person and like local or virtual meetups. You meet a lot of people that way. So that is one thing that really stood out. And one thing that I actually ended up doing from Discord was like after career services. Me and another student from like our cohort made like our own like server on Discord for like our I don't know, like alum like cohort type thing. And that's actually how I got started with my, I guess, first job, which I was actually freelancing for a while before I actually got an in-house corporate UX job. And it was just from an alum who was like, oh, like my husband is a product manager for this company and I'm with them, and like you have the exact background. So like I didn't even get an interview, like I just started working and then started working for like, you know, an agency from that job, and things like just fell into place very quickly. So I guess to sum that up, networking, do a lot of networking.
Yes, for sure.
Just really quickly, echoing all the people who had mentioned their mentor. Mine had helped me, even though I knew what LinkedIn was about, like it's pretty self-explanatory, right? But there was actually a couple extra features that I wasn't aware of. And my mentor had told me that I was able to link specific projects from my portfolio onto my LinkedIn. So people like recruiters, whoever, would be able to actually see like a thumbnail of that project and then be able to navigate to my portfolio. Because in a lot of cases, then at least my mentor, who was also a recruiter, they had told me that oftentimes they'll just scan through your LinkedIn, maybe not even bother with your resume that links to your portfolio. So it was nice to be able to like include that on both. Something else that I also found helpful, back to Discord and the community, is that there's a couple of channels within the Discord that actually are resources to be able to find jobs. There's like a junior to mid-level channel, and then there's like a senior level channel. So I remember going through there and like searching if I had like run LinkedIn dry or like wherever else I was job searching. So those two channels I frequently visited just to keep up to date with anything that might be out there.
So thanks, Marina. I think everyone's answered the question, right? I believe so, right? Yes. Awesome. See, we're moving super fast. So yes, before we start taking questions from the audience, I do have one final question for our awesome alums. And the question is, what advice or words of wisdom would you give to someone who's hoping to make the career transition? As everyone can see, like none of the people on the call here, they're just, you know, regular people. They worked in a career before coming to the program. They built a portfolio in UX Academy, worked with a mentor, and now they're all working as designers, which is amazing. So yes, I'll hear some words of wisdom or words of encouragement to those who want to follow in your footsteps.
I can go first, and this is actually words that I borrowed from other people, but I was told not to be afraid of like what is unknown and what may come of the future, because I think for me, I was somebody who's super nervous to start Design Lab and start the Academy, and I probably could have started earlier in my career and I didn't, because I was just afraid of what might happen after, if I might not get a job or if I'm not successful in this field. But really, like, you know, everybody's at their own pace, right? Everybody has their own different timing. So I would just say like not to be afraid and to be brave and to jump into it. There's going to be a whole community of people who support you outside of your mentor, outside of the people in your day-to-day lives who may or may not know that you're also making this career change. So I would suggest to just be brave.
Thanks, Nina.
I would say, kind of echoing that, be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's something that someone told me a long time ago, and that's been very relevant in my career, but especially in UX. You might be doing presentations, you might be designing something, you might be using variables that you didn't learn, and you have to figure out what variables are. You might be doing some advanced, very technical design that you haven't done before, and to kind of, on that point, say yes to everything and figure it out. And maybe you don't enjoy it. Maybe you don't enjoy certain parts of the design or designing or UX, but the best part is when you figure out you do enjoy it and you become more passionate about it. I will also say, I just looked it up. I believe Figma. So I work in Figma. That's what I think we all work out of, but that's a design tool. I believe it's free still. So my encouragement too would just be go download Figma and go recreate a website that you like and see if you can do it. Because that's one of the first things that I believe we did in Foundations or UX Academy, and it just immediately teaches you a lot about UX design and UI and the decisions they made to make that website. So that would be my encouragement.
Very nice.
I want to go off of what Stefan said, like say yes to everything, but in like a similar sense, like don't tell yourself no. So like, you know, applying to jobs, or like at least for me, getting through like the kind of job searching process after career services was like thinking like you could have these thoughts of like, oh, like I can't apply for this job, like I don't have enough experience, or like, oh, I'm nervous to like reach out to this person. Like if you tell yourself no, then like that's it, that's no. But like if you reach out, if you apply to that job, like something could happen. So just, yeah, that's something that at least I thought of, like someone else can tell me no, I don't tell myself no.
Like that.
I would say trust the process. It is a process. Getting through the boot camp, getting your portfolio together, networking, interviewing, trying to find a job. It may not be straightforward. It may not be linear. That's also like the design process. It may not be linear or straightforward, but you trust the process and know that wherever you're supposed to end up, you will end up. I think it's very scary coming into this industry right now as a junior designer or a prospective designer. There's a lot of talk about the industry and how it's changing and how people are struggling to find work, and all of that is very true. But I would caution you to not discourage yourself before you've given it an opportunity, and just do what you know you need to do to get to the end. It may take some time. Maybe it won't look the way you expect, but all experiences and all opportunities are going to benefit you in the long run. And if it sucks, at least you've learned something about yourself and you can carry that with you into the next opportunity. So trust the process. It's all going to work out.
Yes, very true. Thanks, Amelia.
Yeah, I echo what everybody else has said. I think especially Stephen's be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think likewise, like just enjoy being curious, enjoy learning, doing things, even though the whole point, I think, of learning in general, but definitely being a UX designer is like you don't know where the path ends. And so being comfortable, like just figuring out like, what's that next step that can get me closer? I don't know where the finish line is. Like it's a design process, it's iterative, but if I can kind of figure out what's the next step forward, that's all you need. So get comfortable with that process as well.
I think I think you went, or Mino, you've already gone, right?
Yeah, I went first.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I guess now, thank you all for those words of wisdom. I mean, encouraged on this end too. So thank you all. All right. So we have several questions from our audience, and they're great questions too. So I think it could be really cool to just I'll popcorn them out at random, and some of them based upon what you've shared. I think some might be better for some as opposed to others. So I'll just like start popcorning. The very first one, because you sort of alluded to this, Mina, I'll ask you. So Randon wanted to know, what was your biggest shock or unexpected experience upon entering your first position as a UX and UI designer, and how did you handle it?
So in my current role, I work as I'm on a project that is redesigning a government website. So the biggest shock for me is how slow the government moves and how much red tape that exists in this space. because Design Lab moves so quickly. So that was the pace I was expecting. Well, I guess I was also full-time, so maybe it like is different. But in my head, I was like, this is the pace that I'm going to be working at for the rest of my life, assuming I get a job. And then now that I'm in this role, it's very slow. There's a lot of like much smaller movement parts as opposed to like the projects that we do in Design Lab. How I overcame that, it's not really my discretion how fast the pace is, but it's being able to understand that not everything can move the way that you want it to move. Again, somebody said that it wasn't linear, and that's incredibly true for any project. So it's being able to understand what else can you do in order to be impactful in this moment, in order to continuously contribute, even if there is red tape, even if there is something that is inhibiting you from moving forward with another area. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Mina. That's great. And yes, this one I think would be great for Shannon. I'm curious to hear about imposter syndrome and what it was like to leave Design Lab and enter the workforce. If you felt imposter syndrome, how did you manage and overcome those feelings?
I'm sorry, Bobby, you cut out. I think I heard this question was directed towards me, but I'm not sure.
Oh, yes, but I can read it. Yeah, like I know sometimes there'll be like a lag, but so sorry about that. But yes, Claire wanted to know if you've experienced imposter syndrome, like leaving Design Lab and then entering the workforce, and if you did, how did you overcome that feeling?
That's a really good question. I think for me that I feel like I was relatively confident throughout like the job search and like Design Lab in general, just from like the feedback I got from like my mentors and my background. And I think the imposter syndrome really set in when I like had my first like paid job, which was at a startup. And I think like startups is like, it's a great like opportunity, but it's also like you can feel kind of it can feel really chaotic essentially. Like you're like, I'm not sure if what I'm doing is like the right thing, or like a lot of things are just so open in startup environments that you're just left to like kind of make decisions that you're like, oh, I hope I'm making the right decision as a designer, especially if you're like the only designer. And it happened that to me to be like, you know, two designers are still like kind of more junior. In a way that's like really great because you have a lot of creative freedom and you're like learning along the way. But also you're like constantly wondering if you're kind of doing the right thing. So I don't know, I guess like I think almost all designers, from what I've just having conversations with everybody, no matter what your level is, like I've even talked with like VPs who are like, yeah, I have imposter syndrome. Like I still think like
Wow.
so I feel like you experience that at like all levels. And it could just be like even new projects you work on, new things you pick up on. I think a big thing is just like really having a support system to like just talk to one another. Like the great thing about being a UX designer is like UX designers are very empathetic people. We're very open, like we're very honest, and you know, care about like one another in our careers. So I think a big thing is just like being open about the imposter syndrome, talking to each other about like, you know, how do you like go about this, or like what have you done to like you know, with this kind of problem or thing that you're working out. And that goes back to like the feedback and critical thinking of like design too, right? So that's what I would say about like imposter syndrome, is you kind of overcome it by just like really talking it out with your fellow designers.
Yes. No, thank you, Shannon. That's super helpful. And this one I think would be great for Adugo. In your experience, what got you in the door for interviews? Was it primarily your portfolio, your resume, networking? What was it?
Yeah, so think I did a really good job with storytelling. So
That's a
with
good one.
with my case, so we had to submit a case study for my application, and we had like parameters of how much information we were allowed to give. So I did a really good job of like condensing my app design project into a very short, sweet, condensed format, but still carrying all the important information and also making sure it looks nice and it's easy to digest. And then there was also an essay question asking why did you want to be a product designer? And so I was able to kind of share my story in that. And I think that my ability to tie my former career into my current career was really a strength. And I also think being honest and open with them and sharing a little bit of who I am as a person really helped me stand out amongst the several thousands of people that also applied. So that's one thing I've been telling a lot of people is like UX design. Yeah, we do a lot of visual work. We do a lot of, strategy, but a lot of it is storytelling. And, you want to be able to share your thoughts and share your projects and share your ideas in a way that's compelling and that keeps people engaged and has people wanting to know more. So I think that's what made me stand out. So yeah, storytelling and also just being really, really nitpicky about the pixel perfect designs. Like I spent several hours working on my designs and making sure everything was straight and even and aligned. And I think it did pay off in the end.
Yes, awesome. Thanks, Agugo. I think this one will be great for Alona. So what part of your portfolio stood out the most to the recruiter and hiring manager who interviewed and hired you?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to like answer that directly because I didn't ask the recruiter afterwards. What I will say is I definitely approached my case studies as like get something down that's like, good enough, like, and polished enough, as Adugo was saying. Like you don't want to put something out in the world that is not, where things are just clearly messy, but like get something out that is, at that level of polish. And then I, again, used ADP List, like I think a lot of people, to get feedback from a ton of different mentors on my portfolio and my case studies. And I kept iterating and kind of honing and echoing what Adugo said, like working on the storytelling, trying to get it, my portfolio is like less focused on like, here's the process I went through, and instead focused on like, this is why I was doing what I was doing. This is why it mattered to users. This is why I made the design choices of like, it started as this and it ended as this because XYZ, feedback. And I will say also, I've now been in some on the interviewing side at my company. And one of the things that I know that from the inside they care about is like when people are presenting, can you share actually some like before or after and really articulate why it changed? They don't just want to see the final product. They want to see the evolution again with why, and the why should be pretty, solidly grounded in like user research or user feedback. So that's the piece. I would also, the last thing I'll just throw in there is I did not present off of my portfolio. So once I got a job, an interview, I, created a case study that was more of like a presentation mode, so that I could walk through it that way, because that's going to be a very different type of presentation than like talking somebody through a website, which is not a great experience.
For sure. Yes. Thanks, Alona. And the last question that we have, I will send over to Stephen. So could you talk a little bit about the actual interview process? Like, what was it like and what did you do? Alona sort of alluded to it, but let's see if your experience was perhaps a little different.
For my particular interview experience at my job?
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to go into that. So I alluded to it before, which was networking and saying the words, I would like to, I don't know, I think there's power in saying, I would like to be a UX designer. Like, I need to find a job and I need experience, right? So that just signals to people around you like, okay, great. So I think that was very helpful. I love networking. I very much enjoy it. So that was very, very helpful. Ironically, whenever I was told about the interview, they told me it would be with that person I had spoke to. So I was very ready for that. And they gave me a prompt and said, they're looking for someone that can do ad hoc research and support that. And I said, I have experience doing that with UX Academy. Ironically, whenever I showed up, it wasn't that person. It was last minute change to a manager, a senior designer, a director that was in and out, and then an accessibility designer, and then another UX designer, just completely different people. And they had my portfolio up on the screen. So very nerve-wracking, but very fun. It was very, after you kind of take a moment to breathe, just remembering my experience in UX Academy to presenting to my mentor, presenting in group crits, and presenting to other people, friends, family, loved ones, really, really helped to take that experience and present it to these designers. And I do remember presenting and they had no questions, which I thought was bad. I thought I didn't get the job and I thought I would have to keep looking on LinkedIn for another job, but turns out that was great. Turns out I was confident and presented my case study in a way that they had no questions afterwards.
Wow.
So yeah, it's, and then after that, it was just a certain amount of period and then got a job offer.
Awesome. That sounds great. Such lovely stories. I just want to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. Can we please have a virtual round of applause for our alums who are all now officially designers after finishing off UX Academy? They did a great job at articulating their stories and journeys and experiences. So I want to give them a special thank you. I see I see someone said clap, clap, clap. Thanks, Rucker. It's wonderful. So without further ado, I'd like to share the contact information for the admissions team. And additionally, we are hosting an informational session where we'll give granular details about the UX Academy program overall. So if you're interested in joining the webinar, which will actually be held tomorrow, you can RSVP in the link that I've just shared in the chat. As long as you RSVP and let's say you can't attend, we'll still send you the recording. So please make sure that you sign up to learn more about UX Academy. On the screen here, you'll see our email address. We are the admissions team in case you'd like to get in touch with any questions. And without further ado, if any of our alums would like to share their LinkedIn's, I believe I saw Adago share her website. So if you'd like to share your LinkedIn or a website that you have you'd like to connect with our prospective students, feel free to drop it in the chat below. Okay, so everyone who's staying on, a few of our alums will share their either websites or LinkedIn so you can connect with them. We have a large community here at Design Lab, and you are officially a member as well. Okay, thank you. Okay, awesome. So Shannon has shared LinkedIn, Mina LinkedIn, Doggo LinkedIn. Okay, wonderful. Do go. Let me correct myself. Okay, great. So yes, I've shared our contact information, the webinar for tomorrow. I want to thank everyone, especially our alums and our audience for joining the webinar today. It's been a great time hearing about those lovely experiences. So definitely feel free to get in touch with any questions regarding UX Academy. Also get in touch with our alums who are on the call now. So once again, massive thanks to you all. Have a tremendous rest of your Wednesday and an even better start to the new year. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.